70%. 7 out of 10. That is the number of wealthy families who lose their entire fortune by the time their grandchildren are in charge. This isn't a theory. It's a statistical reality, documented for decades by institutions like the Williams Group. This phenomenon is not driven by market crashes, poor investments, or tax burdens. It is the result of a single, catastrophic failure. A failure of governance. This is what we call the empty kingdom phenomenon. A family builds an empire, a kingdom of assets and influence, but fails to install the architecture of leadership required to sustain it. The crown is passed, but the wisdom to rule is not. The result is a hollow crown, an empty kingdom, destined to crumble. If you have built wealth, or are in line to inherit it, understanding this dynamic is not just important, it is a matter of survival for your family's legacy. The fundamental mistake that 90% of affluent families make is focusing on capital transfer instead of character transfer. They spend fortunes on legal structures to move assets efficiently from one generation to the next. They hire the best tax advisors and estate planners, but they are merely planning the logistics of the money. They are not preparing the heir for the weight of the wealth. They are transferring the assets, but not the acumen. The result is predictable: dissipation, conflict, and the eventual fragmentation of everything the first generation built. Let's break down the generational decay. Generation 1, the founder, builds the wealth. They understand sacrifice. They have an intimate, almost visceral, relationship with the cost of capital. They possess the discipline, the grit, and the vision. Generation 2 inherits this wealth. They may have witnessed the struggle, but they did not live it. Their relationship with the capital is different. It is a gift, not a conquest. They are often stewards, maintaining what was built, but by Generation 3, the connection is severed. They have never known scarcity. The wealth is an abstraction, a given. It is not theirs in any meaningful earned sense. And so, the structure collapses. Not because the money vanishes overnight, but because the governance, the very soul of the enterprise, has long since eroded. This is not a new story. Consider the Vanderbilt family. Cornelius Commodore Vanderbilt, a name once synonymous with American wealth, built a staggering fortune in shipping and railroads, worth over $100 million at the time of his death in 1877. More than the entire U.S. Treasury. Yet, within 2 generations, that colossal fortune had begun its precipitous decline. By the 1970s, less than a century after the Commodore's death, the Vanderbilt family held a reunion with over 1,000 descendants. Not a single one of them was a millionaire. What happened? The Vanderbilts became a cautionary tale of the empty kingdom. They built opulent mansions, threw lavish parties, and lived as American royalty. But they failed to build a system of governance. The Commodore focused on accumulating wealth, but failed to install a framework to manage it, or to prepare his heirs for the responsibility. The fortune was divided, spent, and ultimately squandered. They perfected the art of spending, but forgot the discipline of building. They had the capital, but no cohesive character or structure to guide it. Theirs was a failure not of finance, but of foresight. A failure of governance. King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, understood this principle intimately. In the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 2, verse 18, he laments this very problem. He writes, "I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to the one who comes after me, and who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish. Yet they will have control over all the fruit of my toil into which I have poured my effort and skill under the sun. This, too, is meaningless. Solomon understood that without wisdom, without character, inherited wealth is not a blessing, but a burden. It is meaningless. He recognized that the successor's character, their wisdom or their folly, was the single most important variable in the continuity of his legacy. So, what is the solution? The solution is to invert the traditional model. You must install governance before you transfer capital. This is the foundational principle of Solomon today. We do not focus on asset transfer. We focus on governance transfer. We do not manage capital. We install character. This means creating a robust architecture for your family's legacy. It means establishing a family council, not as a social club, but as a deliberative body with real authority. It means drafting a family charter that codifies your values, your mission, and your decision-making processes. It means defining roles, responsibilities, and the rules of succession with absolute clarity. It means training your heirs not just to be rich, but to be leaders, to be stewards. Here is a practical reflection for you today. Look at your own family structure. Ask yourself this one question. If I were to disappear tomorrow, does a system exist, independent of my personal leadership, that would guide my family in making wise decisions about our collective wealth and future? Asterisk, be honest. Is there a written-down process for resolving conflict? Is there a clear framework for major financial decisions? If the answer is no, or I don't know, then your kingdom, no matter how vast, is an empty one. The good news is that this is a solvable problem. Governance can be designed. Character can be cultivated. A legacy can be architected to last for generations. But it requires a radical shift in perspective. It requires seeing wealth not as a possession to be handed down, but as a responsibility for which the next generation must be rigorously prepared. This is the work we do. This is the challenge we invite you to undertake. Stay vigilant, stay grounded, and above all, stay wise.